Good morning. Good morning, Washington. My name is Joe Cirincione. I'm the president of Ploughshares Fund, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the first annual Ploughshares Fund Conference. We're going to get started right on time. We have an extremely busy schedule. You're going to see some of the leading members of Congress come up to the stage, talk to us, move off to be replaced by another member of Congress, move off, be replaced by key experts in the field talking about the critical issues of our time. We're going to get started right away, and then I'll come back up and give you some of the logistical details. There's been a few changes in schedules, and I'll walk you through the run of the show. But Representative Barbara Lee is here, and she's got a jammed day. You don't have to hold your applause. Representative Barbara Lee is here. And you haven't even said anything. She represents East Bay voters, has been doing so since 1998. She's a member of the Democratic Party, one of the former chairs of the Congressional Black Caucus. She was the first woman to represent the 9th District of California, and then after some rejuggling, the first woman to represent the 13th District of California. And among her many, many accomplishments, and particularly important for this time with these challenges, Representative Lee is notably the only member of either House of Congress to vote against the authorization for the use of military force in the Iraq War after the 2001 attacks. That was the right vote at the right time, and it is astonishing how few people took that right vote. And this breeze you feel in town today on this crisp fall day feels a little like the winds of war. These are ominous times. Diplomacy is at a standstill. Tweets have replaced dialogue. Bombast replaced reason. We are building towards crises with North Korea, with Iran, and some people have already decided that military action is the only path forward. So at this time, at this moment, we are grateful that Representative Barbara Lee could join us and speak a little truth to the powers that be in this town. Thank you very much, Representative Lee.
Well, good morning. And Joe, thank you for that very spirited and warm introduction, and thank you for your tremendous leadership. And to all of you, let me just say how good it is to be with you and to start my day with you, because it's all downhill from here. We're voting on this terrible budget today, and hopefully we can defeat it, but not sure, because we, at this point, don't have the majority, but I think we'll get there next year with your help. So thank you very much. I want to just thank all of the groups who are here and all of the speakers and members who will be coming, because now is the time to, and we say in my district, and I want to say hello to everyone from the Bay Area. You know what stay woke means, right? That's what we have to do right now. So nuclear weapons policy at a time of crisis, the topic that you're discussing today could not be more relevant, and it comes at a pivotal time. Just a bit of history. Some of you know I was very involved with the Sane Freeze movement in the day. I worked for a great warrior, Congressman Ron Dellums, and we then talked about the fact that we had to engage communities of color. And our peace movement then should have been a movement for peace and justice. I'm saying this again now, that we have to have the justice piece with our peace and nuclear disarmament mobilization. And I found an old photo of me. Now, this was, again, way back in the day, that said, and I was carrying it in a march here, and it said, "A nuclear bomb is an equal opportunity destroyer." And it is. And so we're working on Capitol Hill to build a movement that's based on intersectionality, where we bring people of color, communities of color together to work on nuclear disarmament. We know, and believe me, I think you know that President Trump is dangerous, and his military-first approach is both a threat to our national security and also to our international standing. He's hollowed out U.S. diplomacy and development at every turn. And I can tell you, I serve on the Appropriations Committee, the subcommittee that funds all of our development assistance, USAID, and you know, you talk about a 30% cut that this administration put forward in those two Ds. That's really a shame and disgrace, because the only thing left, the only strategy left is the defense and military, the military strategy, and that's the first priority of this administration. And on the issue of nuclear weapons, of course, this administration, President Trump, has heightened tensions in a way that we haven't seen since the Cold War. In this budget, this administration included $10 billion, an increase of $1 billion for the National Nuclear Security Administration's nuclear weapons account. That's a plus up of $10 billion tax dollars, and a decrease of, again, 30% in diplomacy and development. These increases don't make our country or the planet any safer, and they certainly don't help advance our goal of nuclear non-proliferation. Sadly, this president's very ill-advised budget priorities come at a time it's at the expense of funding for vital community building programs such as housing, meals for low-income seniors, and education. So we can't afford to allow this, and I call it, it's an un-American and dangerous agenda to go unchecked. The only way to ensure that we succeed in creating a fairer, more just, and safer world, and yes, peace, which a lot of people have forgotten how to pronounce the P word, peace. You know, we have to join together and build a real global campaign to eliminate nuclear weapons once and for all. And that's the pathway to peace. And so by being here today, I know that all of you are committed to doing that. We have to fight back against Donald Trump's dangerous national security agenda because it's taking us in the wrong direction. And nowhere is this clearer than in his approach to North Korea and Iran. Now, earlier this year, now also a member of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Appropriations. So I went on a congressional delegation to the DMZ in Korea, and also visited Japan and, of course, Okinawa. And let me tell you, my time in the region reinforced my concerns about the potential consequences of nuclear war. Sadly, our allies on the Korean Peninsula have come to live with a constant threat of conflict. And that should not be the case. It's a very tense region. People shouldn't have to live like that. Now the saber rattling between President Trump and Kim Jong-un have markedly increased tensions in the region. Can you imagine Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un with their fingers on the nuclear codes and nuclear weapons? My gosh. The president needs to stop this warmongering, and instead, and I think we have to have direct talks that puts diplomacy first. And as everyone knows in this room, reducing tensions and building strategic alliances is the only way to avoid nuclear war. And that's why we must pass, and I'm really pleased to be one of the principal co-sponsors of Congressman Ted Lieu's bill, H.R. 669, that would prevent the president from launching a preemptive nuclear strike. We received 500 petitions several months ago supporting this legislation when we introduced it. So if you're not on it, and if you haven't asked your members of Congress to sign up, please do, because we have got to get Congress engaged in whether or not this administration goes to war, nuclear war especially. Also, I'm really pleased now as a Democrat. I'm a member of the DNC. And so the Democratic National Committee just last week passed my resolution to restrict President Trump's ability to launch a nuclear strike against North Korea. So I'm very proud of my party. We've been trying to do this since the 80s. Since the 80s. So Democrats are plugging along. No president, especially not this one, should be allowed to conduct a nuclear first strike without coming to Congress first. And also, you know, I've been trying to repeal the 2001 authorization to use military force. We saw what just happened, the tragedy in Niger. It is unbelievable where our young men and women are sent at this point, where Congress is not involved in the debate and in authorizing the use of force. And so we've got to, and it was mine passed. I'd worked on this for years and years, and we passed it on a bipartisan basis, some of you know, in the Appropriations Committee, just to repeal the 2001 resolution and to provide a way for members of Congress to debate the current wars that are taking place and vote if we so think it's necessary on a new one or not. Well, in the middle of the night, Speaker Ryan, out of a 326-page bill, just wiped it out. And by the time it got to the Rules Committee and the floor, there was no mention of even my amendment in that. But we're going to win this because Congress needs to do its job. It's been missing in action, and sooner or later we're going to repeal the 2001 authorization and make Congress debate and vote. We've got to do this now. Look at what's happening with Iran. At every turn, this administration's dangerous and illogical foreign policy decisions really fly in the face of facts and reality. His decision to decertify the Iran deal and kick the issue to Congress is really a clear example of that. This is a reckless decision, and it's a clear step toward unraveling the deal. And we know what the consequences are of breaking this deal and what would happen. An emboldened Iran would be back on the path to develop nuclear weapons. That's a fact. So I had the privilege to work with the Obama administration to help pass the JCPOA. And let me tell you, it was not easy. It was years in the making. I remember years ago using a red telephone call in the Cannon building to call Iran in a public event. It was called Let's Talk to Iran, and authorizing legislation to end our nation's counterproductive no-contact policy, because this is the only way we can engage in the reduction of the possibilities of nuclear war with Iran, is engagement. So I know all too well how hard it was to enact this deal, because when we participated, and some of you may have been part of that, in the Let's Talk to Iran day, boy, it was controversial. It was like, why? You know, well, we want to, you know, stop the threat of nuclear weapons. I think that's enough reason. So I know how hard it is and how hard it was to enact the Iran nuclear deal. And so the real consequences of pulling out now are very serious. And let me be clear, any legislation to amend the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act, that's what it's called, the law, that's a deal killer, and it would isolate the United States. We know that our allies who helped work on the deal, you know, they're holding up the deal, and they don't intend to walk away from this agreement, thank goodness. So stay woke on this and help us with your members of Congress to not allow this deal to unravel. So in closing, I hope that you make this conference for what it is. It's really for motivation, and it's for information for the resistance. It's a time to retool and refuel for the fight ahead. It's a time to pause for planning on the path ridding the world of nuclear weapons. I don't know what could be a more important mission. We must not only oppose Trump's dangerous militaristic foreign policy, but think about this today in terms of the alternatives. We must put forward our own national security goals based on the 3 Ds, of course, diplomacy, development, and defense. We truly need all three. I'm hopeful for a future where we see our wasted war dollars, your tax dollars, reinvested in our struggling communities that are really crying out for justice. An America where we feed hungry children rather than building nuclear bombs. And so by being here today, I hope that you remember those ideals. I know you will. But I want to close with Dr. King's charge to us when he said that peace is not just the absence of tensions, it is the presence of justice. So thank you all again for being here.